we're going to continue our conversation. We have Angel Mbuthia, National Youth Chairperson of the Jubilee Party. As Kenya's political center of gravity continues to shift here and there, we'll be having a conversation with her. Thank you for joining us again.
Thank you, Janet.
Yeah, I know we had you recently on the Digital Baraza, and we've hosted you before.
I'm a fixer, so...
You're a fixer, you're a true fixer.
I pledge my loyalty.
To be a fixer for life.
Yes.
This is always odd. I'm like, before we start, I'll share the quote of the day, as I do.
Yeah, me too. Before we start, Janet will share the quote of the day with you, and then we can get to into the conversation.
Absolutely. Right. So Martin Luther King Jr. once said, oppressed people cannot remain oppressed forever. The yearning for freedom eventually manifests itself.
Yes.
Cosign.
Yes, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think that that makes me think about the people of Uganda, and I look at them and I feel for them so much. They're just watching their systems being brutalized. I'm thinking rape, their systems are just being crushed and they cannot do anything about it. And I hope that that quote resonates with them, because I feel for them. They are looking at mediocrity getting into their spaces of influence. It's not a joke to have a president. It's not a joke to have even a member of parliament. They have almost senile guy representing them in parliament in one of the districts. And I think that's very, 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 very disturbing, I would imagine, especially for a youth like me in Uganda, what they're feeling and what they're seeing in Kenya, what they're seeing other countries do. I hope that Uganda listens and resonates with that quote. And then again, what I would also want to tell the youth of Uganda is that in our quote, when we were students, we would say the oppressors and the oppressed in the end of times, they will be punished in equal measure. The oppressors will be punished because of obviously oppressing the oppressed, and the oppressed will be punished for allowing themselves to be oppressed. So may the people of Uganda not allow themselves to be oppressed any further. Yes.
You've clearly blanketed this one into that the Ugandans are oppressed.
I have to, I mean, they have no avenues of expression, and we have seen how Kenya got into the June 25th protest. It's because political parties had been muzzled or continue to be muzzled even today. Platforms where young people should be able to express themselves, like the National Youth Council, they were not available. Civil societies are being, gagged. Even the media in Kenya is being stopped from broadcasting live. I mean, we saw that happen to us. So when we see them not having spaces or avenues for them to express themselves, and I had President say that, those civil activists who are trying to bring in money, foreign investors, trying to participate in their democracy, calling them homosexuals. And, we are past that age of calling our partners in the civil rights move, in civil advocacy, and we call them homosexuals. I think that's a very 2002 mentality we had in Kenya then. Today we are partners, we work with them. The government of Kenya works with different civil society stakeholders. Well, maybe not because they want to, but that was not the case in 2002, and that's where Uganda is. And I'm very sad for the people of Uganda and the youth of Uganda. I know they're feeling it, and they can do very little about it.
I want to bring it to Kenya. You want to stay in Uganda?
Just a little bit.
Okay.
Just a little bit. Because we had Agre Mutambo, who is the Africa editor here, talking about Uganda. And he said something very important, which is that we look at Uganda with one lens, probably because we're looking at urban, especially Uganda, Kampala and Co. And for a big part of Uganda as well, there are those who are very sympathetic to Yoweri Museveni.
Yes, and
who do feel,
and that's all right, because then let it be seen on live TV stations. Let us see it on NTV Uganda, and see them on radio stations saying that yes, I support Yoweri Museveni. I'm going to vote for him. Let the polling stations have let the youth go live, or let us see what happens. Like what we saw with the Mbuthia North election, we saw there were issues here, there were issues there. It was clear if it was rigging, it was done before they could actually go to the ballot. And that is what we need to see from Ugandans, and let them say it clearly in broad daylight. Don't switch off the media, telling Ugandans that if you used VPN, then you're in trouble. I'm wondering, are Ugandans high school students where you are told, kama unajua umeongea leo, ujue kesho uko na You know, those I feel like Ugandans are being treated like kids, and that's not how to talk to a nation. And my heart goes to the people of Uganda. But then again, we also have our own big fish to fry here. Kila mtu apambane na hali yake, but we are with them in our hearts and in our minds.
As you hold space for the others.
Eric wanted now to come to Kenya.
Yeah, because all these things that we are saying, you know, there's pluralism in this country, there's you know, political parties and vibrancy and all. But when you're not referring to another country, you, especially you people in politics, always talk about how, you know, our political space is being muzzled. And now when you compare, you say, you know, Ugandans are not like Kenya, you know, here we have more freedom. Which is which? Is there freedom in this country politically or not?
I think there has been freedom in this country, and when we compare it with Uganda right now, I don't know who is speaking on their breakfast show saying analyzing the election, and I'm wondering, if they say anything contrary to the results, do they have is their freedom guaranteed after the interview? So we are fighting for our space to continue being protected, and it's very good that we are watching what's happening to other countries, because I'm so worried when I see you know, injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. I can comfortably imagine that our regime is capable of taking such measures as, you know, shutting down the media. It's not something that they cannot do. And even closing borders, like happened in Tanzania, and, you know, shutting us out from the rest of the world completely. So if we sit back and we keep quiet, once they are done eating Ugandans, the next ones that they'll be coming to eat is we Kenyans. And when you see our regime congratulating such personalities, whether it's because of political or other interests or neighborhood interests, I think that a lot is settling into their minds. Even what is happening in the United States, and that's a nation that has been a big partner to us and has been a role model. Even when we talk about Kenya's 2010 constitution, it's borrowed heavily from such countries. And now when we see them doing what they're doing, and we've been thinking that those are they are our firstborns, we are maybe secondborns or thirdborns, and that's what they're doing to their democracy. I mean, they don't care, and there's nobody to check anymore. When election observers are saying that the election has a clean bill of health, what does it say to us? We are, unajua, tuko motoni, tutasemangaje?
Ukiona mwenzako amenyolewa
yako kichwa chako unatia maji. So it's a very telling situation in our global politics, and we are not removed from it at all. We should be very worried, and we should keep fighting for our space.
I agree. The fight now, what it looks like is what perhaps changes. We were just speaking to the office of the registrar of political parties. Yeah, I know you were listening to the conversation.
Yes.
At some point, we got into the money of parties, the finance element of political parties, and just realized how incredibly expensive it is to start a political party. Tens of millions of shillings, basically. Is that why you chose the Jubilee way as Angel, or were there other, considerations?
Mariam, I think that for my fight and my quest that I have been with the youth movement and seeing what the Jubilee Party espouses, if there's one thing when I was in university, I would see the Jubilee regime really support young people. I think out of all the things that it may have done left or right, I saw them support young people. I am a product of a regime that ensured that in the university we only paid 30,000 shillings per year, and that is inclusive of even accommodation. I saw very young members, people sitting with cabinet ministers in offices, and I felt that this is a government that is actually looking at how it can empower the youth. There was Kazi Mtani, the digital infrastructure for this country. We enjoy great digital infrastructure, not because of this regime, but because of the investment that was put in by the previous regime. And what they did not complete, I would want to see it completed. And I thought that even when Mr. Ruto came in, he would ensure that some of these things are at least put in place. But I've not seen that. When he said ataweka pesa mfukoni, I have not seen. We are not experiencing that at all. We still have our neighbors like in Tanzania paying for 1 liter of diesel 40 shillings less, and that begs a lot of questions. I don't think this regime cares about the young people of Kenya. I think this regime hates two things. Number one, it hates political parties. Number two, it hates the youth of Kenya. I have not seen why a country would give its students or its youth pocket money without first paying school fees. And if you are a parent and you're just giving your kids pocket money na haujawalipia shule, I don't know whether you really love those kids or you just want to spoil them and have them get into other devious ways. It doesn't really make sense. I don't see where or how this government is supporting the youth. It's about killing the young people of Kenya, calling them arsonists, brandishing them with drug trafficking. And that's what scares me when I see the president talk about hanging those who are found as drug traffickers. Now I'm worried. Maybe DCI will come to my house and then they'll say I've been trafficking because of speaking out, and I'll be hanged because of that. And those are some of the loopholes that I see in a regime that has gone rogue. So I don't trust this regime. I think every day that passes when this regime is in power, I know I lose another 1,000 years of my future, or I lose a lot of opportunities because of this regime. Every day that goes by with it, it is a big loss to a generation.
Let me pin your thoughts on the regime for just a minute, because I wanted to explore young people and political parties just a bit. The fact that, and that's why I began with, Jubilee, was it the values, the ideologies, and you've spoken a little bit to it. You said, you saw what they were doing, even in university. You could see these are people who are for me in one way or the other, right? As opposed to whatever other offerings there were out there. I'm trying to picture, though, remove yourself as chair of, the young National Youth Chair of Jubilee, and just speak as Angel, a young woman. If you were getting into the political space now, and you genuinely wanted a fresh start, where it's not Angel, National Youth Chair, it's Angel, Chair, party leader, would you start your own party? Does it make sense for young people to start their own political movements and parties?
Yes, it is a very incredible thing for Kenyans to be able to start and be to parties where they feel they are happy and belong to. It is a right that Kenyans fought for since 1992. Multi-party democracy is something that needs to be embraced by Kenyans. And that's why I started by saying this regime hates two things: political parties and the youth of Kenya. Political parties, and Jubilee Party has been a victim of that. Immediately after 2022 election, we saw a very, almost a takeover, like what is happening to ODM today, and like even what happened to ANC. Now it has been rebranded to a progressive professionals network or something of that sort. That is what the regime is doing to political parties. So I highly encourage and ask that even as we get into the next regime, I hope as many young people can get themselves elected and go to parliament. Because at this moment, when I look at the Political Parties Act, it does not favor us at the moment. A lot of revisions have to be made, because when you talk about having physical presence in at least 24 counties, does not make sense anymore. Hiyo imepitwa na wakati. That one we could say it in 2002, because maybe phones, radios and TVs were not as accessible as they are today. In a decade where we have virtual courts, I think that is something that can be scrapped out of the political parties' requirements, because it is in the constitution. And then even when you talk about registering with a fee of 250,000 Kenya shillings, I think that is absurd. It should be free. It should be fair. It should be like opening when you want a KRA account. It should be as easy as that, because as it is easy for you to tax me, it should also be as easy for me to express myself in my freedoms and my rights. At the moment, it is not conducive. Right. The regime is too rogue. I saw the political parties, the Office of Registrar of Political Parties. It is a very small entity of about 5 to 10 people. It is not an institution that is well funded to be able to resist government oppression or be independent. It is an institution that can easily be manipulated. I saw that what happened with the former registrar of political parties. We would go there as officials of Jubilee Party, asking them to ensure that they have gazetted, but they would just ignore. And these are some of the things that I've seen within our political party systems.
Right.
The Office of Registrar of Political Parties is the backbone of our political party systems, and political parties are the ones that give birth to government. They are the vehicles that take us to government. But where the nucleus, the patient zero, which is ORPP, does not have the structure, the breadth and the width to be able to sit with that political parties actually go into their mandate. That is why we are seeing a lot of weaknesses and loopholes when you talk about even women representation, ensuring that there is even capping of the amount of money that is spent in elections. ORPP and IBC should be able to work together to ensure that we have a sanitized political environment. But everyone is for themselves. Ni kila mtu tuko shamba la wanyonge. Sasa ni kila mtu ajitetee, unaweza kujitetea. You can be able to be in parliament and say about your own political party. You cannot resign, so go back to an election. In serious democratic countries, that is what happens. But we are not living up to it.
Angel,
Yes, Eric.
I agree with many of the things that you've said. However, I've got to point out here that being a leader of Jubilee, it's very rich. This coming from Jubilee, this regime, the other, this regime. Jubilee was in government for 10 years.
Yes.
Jubilee did not empower the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties. Jubilee amended the Political Parties Act to create another mongrel of the thing that we are dealing with now was a creation of Jubilee. So first of all, let's just say this regime, let's just say that we are having challenges. And what I'd like to hear is now, as youth leader of the Jubilee Party and working with the leadership of the Jubilee Party, these are the proposals that you're putting in place to amend the law so that you can allow, for example, amend the law to scrap the requirement for payment of fees at the registration point. Amend the law to include physical presence or the presence. So what is the alternative to the physical presence?
Those are legislatives. And that is why I'm running for Woman Rep Kiambu to go to Parliament, because that is where those are changing.
You are a leader of a political party.
Those
your
laws
party
are
has
changed.
structures, and your structures of the party have members of Parliament, right? So if this Jubilee that has representation in Parliament at present cannot organize to bring in these laws, you don't tell me that if we put Jubilee back in office, it will make those laws happen. I don't see it.
Eric,
I don't trust this Jubilee as much as I didn't trust the previous Jubilee.
Eric, first of all, I am the fresh Jubilee. I'm in the new Jubilee, the new generation of Jubilee party members. And I think that even as we're having that conversation about political parties, and we are saying that political parties need to go beyond personalities. You know, the same political party that elected Abraham Lincoln is the one that has given Americans Trump again in 2024. So I think that political parties need to go beyond that. I would want to be the next, face of Jubilee Party. Say, in ile akina Angel, this is what they stand for. And then another generation comes, in ya akina Wale, this is what they stand for. This thing of about, it has to be about a personality, like in ODM, where we are seeing that now because Raila is not there, things have become different. Or when we are looking at Jubilee Party, that Uhuru Kenyatta is not there. So Jubilee Party, what is Jubilee Party? So I think it's about parties being able to repackage themselves and bring themselves up to speed to the issues of the current of the day. I mean, if we are talking about freedom of expression, this is not something that we're supposed to be repeating every year. And
before you go
then.
into that,
And
you haven't answered Eric's question, to be fair, because and I get what he's saying. You are a party leader right now in an existing political party that does have members of parliament, that is part of a coalition that has even more members of parliament. So there's a way to push these things,
to still push for change.
And I see the quagmire you're in, to be honest, but I also think that there's a fix that's not easy. So the quagmire is the expense of starting a political party, the work that would be required, right? You'd have to obviously not go it alone. It can't just be Angel. It has to be Angel plus 15 others from wherever to even make this possible from a numbers perspective. There's that. or join an existing political party where essentially it's a token. It's like what's the word? An affirmative action hire as a young person, and then try and
rise
from there.
I think that what happens in our political party environment is, after you're elected, then you forget about where you've come from. Because we had a lot of members of parliament elected, even members of county assembly, but soon they are bought in by the sitting regime. And then now all of a sudden you lose the grip that you had, and it becomes a whole entire process to defeat a member of parliament, a sitting member of parliament. And now this goes again to how you crack on members of parliament. If you've decided that you no longer speak for Jubilee Party, you should step aside and get elected with the party that you want to be that you want to be associated with. If you are saying that you've been elected to parliament by Jubilee, but now you advocate for UDA, then relinquish your seat and get elected by UDA, so that now you can push for UDA issues. Because when we look at even the June 25th, 2024, those protests showed us that we have no confidence with our parliament. A whole parliament of 60-70% saying yes to the finance bill. That shows how much little power we have over our members of parliament as the people of Kenya. I think it goes a lot to saying that even the credibility of the leaders that we elect, it's part of that. Even when you're saying that we need to revise the Political Parties Act and allow that you don't need to register any, that one requires a coalition of a lot of members of parliament. Even when you look at some of the laws that are passed in parliament that are youth friendly, it requires lobbying, because if you have about 20 MPs who are youth and you have a whole parliament of about 310, including women reps and special MPs, how are you going to pass that kind of legislation, no matter how beautiful and brilliant it is? That's why we're having this conversation, and that's why I'm encouraging many young people. Even if I was the only one elected to parliament, I would not be able to fulfill the plights of the young people of Kenya. I would not be able to. The group theory has to still work, because when you look at the Constitution of Kenya 2010, the person who thought of 50% plus one is the most brilliant person we've had in our time, because that 50% plus one is what requires things to move in Kenya. If you're about coalitions, it's about ensuring that things of ethnicity are factored into, age. Those are some of the things that 50 plus 1 tries to ensure that each demographic within our population is captured. So that's the same 50% plus 1 we need in parliament. It is not a joke to elect someone because they've given you 2,000 shillings. It goes beyond that 2,000 shillings. And I hope that members of my generation can see that and see it necessary to go there. And that's why I am where I am today.
Angel, you yourself, you sound disappointed. You sound powerless. Because you sound like you're saying, without being elected to parliament, you cannot effect much change. So it's basically telling the youth that even joining a political party, you will not be able to. I mean, if the youth leader in a political party does not sound like she can actually make change or mobilize for change within a party, so what's the point of joining a party?
Have you tried to mobilize change?
Yes, I have. I mean, we have, by even being among the first fixers in this show, I have tried to mobilize change just because of that. Speaking out consistently. And
within the party, I want to say, within the party, you've joined a party, you've risen through the ranks. I mean, you've gotten to this position where you sit at the table as the leader of the youth.
Yes.
Okay? And you have all these ideas that ought to bring youth representation and inclusivity in governance.
Yes.
Right? From this party that was in power before, and it's still a strong national party. But I'm not hearing you saying that, because of my position in this, because of the many others that have encouraged to join this party, we have moved the needle to start facing youthwards.
Eric, let me tell you this. The story. I'm part of the story of Jubilee Party, and my journey from being a member to become a NEC member began in 2023, and that is particularly when we started fighting for Jubilee Party. That there were issues to do with Jubilee A and Jubilee B. That is where we were in 2023. And we fought for and advocated for Jubilee Party at a level as a member, and even becoming a NEC member and the chairperson of the youth in Jubilee Party. And being consistent as a consistent foot soldier in Jubilee Party, I have been able to ensure that I am part of the team that has been relentlessly pushing to ensure that that party remains independent, that party remains with the people that have been elected by the members and the delegates of Jubilee Party, because that was something that was going to be taken away from the members of Jubilee Party. Jubilee Party was going to be taken away from those who are in office illegally, and that was very, very, very wrong. I would not have been seated there watching other people who do not believe in the cause of Jubilee Party take away Jubilee Party. And that is why I stood with Jubilee Party, and tulivaa masufuria in 2023 mkasema ati tukisema the cost of living is too high, and I was part of that movement. We went again in 2024 and we were part of the protests in June 2024. In 2025 is when we finally had a breakthrough, and the court pronounced us, we the ones who had been elected in 2023 May, as the duly elected members of Jubilee Party. That was a very, very long process. It gave me a lot of experience in terms of running a political party and seeing how a political party actually works. We made many visits to the Office of Registrar of Political Parties. We camped outside that office. We almost became, we looked like officers of ORPP, because we really fought for Jubilee Party with my Secretary General, Jeremiah Kioni, and the other members of Jubilee Party who really stood strong. And that has shown me and taught me that political parties are not something you joke around with. A political party is something that you fight for, and that you espouse the issues and the ideologies that the party intends to bring out of a nation. And you cannot fix a nation alone. I have to be with you and others who are out of this room. And that is what I am doing in Jubilee Party. And every day and every other time when I get an opportunity, I talk about the youth issues, even within the Jubilee Party. And my party leader, Uhuru Kenyatta, is very, very particular about youth engagement and meaningful youth engagement. It is not just about, it's not tokenism. It's not about getting to be, to attend rallies and just participate as bystanders. It's as key critical decision makers. Even when we were having our press conference, the last one, it was led by the youth. It was the Youth League that led that, and the other leaders stood back and they had us take that way. And I'm very much encouraged by my party. I have the freedom of expression. I'm not here because I'm speaking on behalf of someone. I'm speaking because this is my mind. I have spoken my mind even before being a member of Jubilee Party. So I feel that in Jubilee Party, I am able to express myself as a leader. I'm able to express myself forthrightly. I don't have, there's no booty licking. I don't have to get some paycheck somewhere. I do what I do for Jubilee Party voluntarily. Even when the accounts were frozen for the last 3 years. I have been a member of Jubilee Party. I have spoken on behalf of Jubilee Party. And I really insist that the youth of Kenya join Jubilee Party. It is a party that espouses the issues that we had last year, in 2024, how time flies. And I see that there is that environment, there's that room for you to express yourself. Yeah. And even when I speak on pressers, when I'm accompanied by Jubilee Party members and the leadership, I speak as I feel best fit. And I feel that my potential, my leadership is being used better. I mean, I can effect my leadership
to elevate
better.
Young voices. I was going to ask you a question, but maybe I'm doing too much of blanket comparison. I'm looking at what's happening in ODM in terms of that kind of quote struggle of old power and new power. And I'm wondering whether it's quietly the same thing in many parties. Because when you're talking, I almost hear a version of, I don't know, I'm saying this loosely, like a Sifuna saying, youth-led, we want to be able to, it almost sounds like the same thing, which again looks like it's been fought in some ways with the interim party leader in ODM. Is there a quiet sort of transition or struggle, even if I don't know how much you can say for Jubilee, where voices like Angels and other young people are quietly also finding themselves muzzled or quietly almost wanting to break away or push back the way we're seeing it play out with ODM? Or are you saying, no, for us, we're youth-led, we're youth first, our voices will come first? How do you honestly feel?
Janet, I think that our politics I was even just checking, is a $1 billion economy. When you look at how much is spent between the election year's eve and the election year, it goes to about $1 billion US dollars. And a lot of money from what IBC spends, from how much you spend to campaign as a governor, as an MCA, as an MP, all of that goes to about $1 billion US dollars. And that's a lot of money. And that's a space that is heavily guarded by people who embrace the status quo. It is an environment. It is a job description where people have bought mansions and have had international bank accounts out of. And I think I was following that conversation last week about Azimio and the 500 million that was sent for agents. And you can see that this is a honey jar that is full of honey. I think it's a drum of honey. And you are telling young people that you guys, you need to come here and be part of the partaking of the honey. The national cake is big. And so that's something that young people will definitely face in their quest and their fight for power. That is why a lot of young people died in 2024, because the status quo can't just imagine that we are going to be overthrown. And that is what is happening in Uganda. The status quo has entrenched itself so much that it's so difficult it's like a mugumo tree. It's a fig tree. Taking it out requires a lot of effort. And that is the kind of role or work the young people have. And in Jubilee Party, it's an organ transplant, you know. It's a heart that maybe you're getting from somewhere else. And in other parties it might beat properly, in other parties, you know, it might kill it. So for Jubilee Party, I can see there is goodwill. We are now in a new dawn in Jubilee Party. We got back the party in 2025. We are very deliberate about building the party. And we have been in war already. Where ODM is, we were in 2022. Where DAP is, we were in 2022. We already fought that fight. And from where we are, I can see the goodwill from the party leadership. And I am also there and part of the process of pushing to ensure that young people are meaningfully included. And I'm encouraged by the party leader. What other parties lack is the goodwill. You know, if the party leader of ODM is saying, yeah, ni baby boy, yeah, ni Gen Z leader, yeah, ni youth leader, you know, that already tells you what that has to say. You have to fight that. That's a mugumo tree that
identify as a baby.
as a baby boy, which is okay. Which is okay. It is up to now the members of ODM. It is at their prerogative. It is their decision to if that is what they want, if that is not what they do not want. Because even about the youth, it's not that we are saying the youth, we also have to come out and prove our worth. We must come out and show that we went to school, we have the political experience, we have the political acumen, we have the talent, we have the mind, we have the passion, we have the spirit. It will take so much more. Because when you look at regions, a region where I come from, like Mount Kenya counties, they are very unforgiving. You do one term unaenda, because if you don't live up to the expectation, you are taken home. So it's about proving yourself and ensuring that we actually saying that yes, we do not only go to the streets, but we can go to parliament and fight for our nation.
Now that we politic in blocks, essentially, are the youth a block, or are they what would I call it? Something waiting to be absorbed into other blocks. We were just talking about Kenya politics earlier, and I was asking Gunjiri, when you talk about Mount Kenya, is Mount Kenya a homogeneous region, really? You know, are there any breakaways in terms of age, in terms of ideology, in terms of anything? This idea of young people, are young people a block, or are they just, or they are just, I don't know, something waiting to be amalgamated into other blocks?
My wish is, and my thinking is that we are in a generational war. We have had previous elections taking the character of Hustler versus Dynasty, a classical war. We took a tribal war sometimes back in 2007, before that. And that has been the digital versus analog with Akina Uhuru Kenyatta in 2013. And I'm looking at 2027 as a generational war. It's a war where even when I'm just walking anywhere in this country, niende mahali tu niseme, hey, one time, nimepotea naenda hapa na hapa. You know, your friends already, it's a way to break the ice. And you know, when I meet members of my generation, you do this to each other and like, you thumbs up. And it's a generational conspiracy because it has to be that. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to pull out that mugumo tree. That fig tree is going to be very difficult to pull out, me as Angel, or anyone else who has the same mindset as I do. I think it goes beyond even the tribal politics. And when we talk about regions like Mount Kenya, even when you look at the register that we have today, about 22 million registered voters, if we have another 6 more million as IBC anticipates, that was about 28 million. But still 50% of the voter register is the traditional voter register. It is the voter register where we cannot ignore the fact that there's someone who is going to take money and vote in a different way. That's something that the government is capitalizing on and using propaganda. So that is where we as the youth of Kenya have the mandate. We have the digital platforms, we have the voices, we have the understanding. We are able to educate our seniors back at home, because in every homestead in Kenya, there is a young person. And I think that is the sole responsibility that they do have, because they have seen it. We cannot forget that the president said that we need to be shot on the leg. We cannot forget that. We cannot forget Albert Ojwang. We cannot forget that. We must not forgive, and we must remember not to forget, because these people can be forgiven in heaven, but here on earth, we are going to be dealing with each other perpendicularly.
You know, this is not I was going to say, I hear you, and then I'm thinking about our political realities, which is that emotion essentially is not a strategy, right? Because the people you're telling not to forget about, shoot them in the leg, about Albert Ojwang, essentially have already moved on. They're already talking about 2027. They're talking about what's being given here, what's being given there. The politics has moved to a very different, I would say, mood. So I don't know what the strategy is if we really are to galvanize, if you really do want people to not forget, or to act as if there's knowledge of what we've been through. What's the strategy there? Because I think saying don't forget as it stands right now, while someone is actively making people forget, might not be a strategy.
I think we have to, fight with one arm and climb with the other, because essentially that's a feeling largely driven by government propaganda. I think government has invested so much in our digital platforms in terms of, comments is where you want to read the mood of maybe a certain video or picture you have seen. And that's where you're going to read and say, okay, this is the mood of the country. I highly disrecommend that, because government has invested heavily in bots. It has invested heavily in shaping narratives, even on our social media, even our mainstream media. Those that are not careful can get into the trap of government. And those are the platforms you use to give a perception. One thing I know about where we are as a nation, it is pinching long and hard. And that's where we have a role, we in the opposition. When we say united opposition, that is what essentially we are talking about, because it's about civic education. How government will campaign is not how the opposition will campaign. When we are seeing meetings in Ghana, in Nyeri, look at even the people that are fronting some engagements, like for Nyeri, the Nyeri governor, we are not sure, I think as the population goes into making a decision, even as we saw with the InfoTrack polls, they're still saying 30% of Kenyans are still not decided. And if it's 30% on a voter register of 20 million people, that's a very huge percentage. So there's still time that we can rethink, recollect. And I'm happy that Kenyans become brilliant every day. They can tell their leaders from afar. Like now I was reading your comments when you were talking to Ngonjiri, and guys are asking, are you in ODM or in broad-based? Guys are like, what are you saying? Yeah? And Kenyans are becoming brilliant every day. And I think they're just seated back, recollecting and waiting for the time to come. Because, the struggle is there. Yeah. Because that's what we did with the Gen Z protest.
Yes.
2 months before, we said, this is just online. Ruto must go. It's just another day in the office. But then what we saw shocked all of us. It did not come out of anywhere. And I think that's the best strategy for this regime.
Let me devil's advocate a bit. Only because this morning Ngunjiri was like, Leo, mtasikia mambo ya ground.
Yeah.
And almost following up on what Mariam is asking, because I think the more we have these conversations, the more we realize that emotion is important. The memory is important. It's a reminder why you push for change, but it's being outsmarted, if I can say that, or outmaneuvered by people who are investing on an everyday strategy that is like a mammoth. So it almost sounds like opposition is, unless it's quietly countering with another mammoth, that it may not be enough to be saying, you know, this happened and then in 2 months we were able to galvanize and mobilize. When you have somebody who is every day, even when people were away at Christmas, galvanizing and
mobilizing.
Is there a reflection that perhaps we actually need to figure out what our outmaneuver strategy is beyond, you know, one term, beyond we must take him out, beyond ABCD. And also it's 18 months to the elections. Is there a reality setting in like, hey, we need to do more? Or is there something more happening that you're not telling us?
I think that government has a luxury to roll out strategies as much as they would want. But you see, it is coming to bite them back because they want to sell Safaricom shares and they're talking about 200 billion. All I hear is meetings in State House when I hear that 200 billion. That's all I hear. All I hear is political meetings across the country. At the end of the day, every January, even next January, parents are still going to cry about education. It is there and it's going to happen because they are totally, they are oblivious of the reality of Kenyans. They think that just meeting Kenyans somewhere, giving them 5,000, 10,000 shillings is enough. And I think that no matter what kind of galvanizing they do and no matter what kind of mobilization they do, they are really missing out on the majors. They are majoring on the minors and forgetting about what is critically important. And I think that it's going to come out in due time. I think Kenyans are watching. They are able to see all that is happening. And when you look at key sectors like education, when healthcare is an issue and we're talking about patients not having food in hospitals. So do you die of cancer or you die of starvation? Do you die of TB or you die? You know, it doesn't make sense. I think this regime should be very, very far from power if we are at all serious about our nation. You know, our country now has open borders and I don't even imagine whether our national security is up to date. You know, the education sector, is now talking about going door to door to ensure that the grade 9 learners transition. And I'm wondering, why go door to door? You know where these guys are. I mean, you have a whole database, a whole system. I don't understand how this regime works. I think it's in Mars and we are right here in Kenya trying to understand things and telling us about an AI-generated country called Singapore. And I think that as a nation, we really need to be very serious about who we are as a nation. We are looking at what other countries are doing. Others are taking over other countries because of how much might they feel they have. And where are we as a nation?
Angel.
Maybe not the best example, but we can't take over our own nation.
You have painted a very grim picture of our current situation. Unfortunately, that's not your job. Your job is to paint for us a brighter future with your outfit. Okay? Now, and that's, I think, where the question is coming in. So, the administration, the current administration is playing both. It's you said, fight with one hand, climb with the other. It's governing with one, it's campaigning with the other. Opposition has both hands free. What is it doing with those two hands free? Okay? What message are we getting from apart from reminding us that, yesterday some people went to hospital and they did not eat. Okay, yeah. Apart from reminding us that there are some learners who have not transitioned to grade 10. Okay, yeah. Apart from telling us there are those who are not going to be able to go to school because of school fees. Okay, yeah.
Eric.
And then now tell us, you know, Kenyans are watching. You know, by and by Kenyans are going to come by. You know, listen. There is absolutely no hope coming from the opposition. And this is not Angel Mbuthia.
Yes.
The opposition camp, the alternatives, all of them.
It's not
Whether we
inspiring
talk
much
about the United
confidence.
Opposition outfits, you talk about the David Maragas on the other side, you talk about, Senator Omtai on that or the other, Ruben Kigame. I'm listening to all those people who have come out to say, I'd like to be the opposition. Jimmy Wanjege. I'm not hearing, this is the plan.
beyond, we have to remove.
Yes. And I saw recently, Jimmy Wanjagi actually said that, as opposition, we've got to come up with a plan. Beyond just saying Ruto must go, we must have something more tangible. And that's closer to it. What is that thing? So what? What is it that you'd like? So you tell us, let's not forget Albert Ojwang. Okay, we'll not forget.
Yeah.
Okay, we remember.
And don't we have time because
It's okay, we remember.
Yeah. And it's not a factor of like we still have time because
18 months is not a lot of time.
18 months is not a lot of time, but also the person you're up against has an incredible head start. The head start of being in office, the head start of mobilization. Like it's a hell of a head start when you think about it.
Hey, kwani watu wame give up? I don't know. I get your perspective. And Eric, my job here is not what you have described. My job is to remind Kenyans where we've come from and where we are heading to. And we cannot go into the future without knowing where we've come from. And even as we are talking about, I've just mentioned that in January next year, in 2026, parents are still going to have an issue with their learners. And government is still trying to deal with the menace of today. So today is going to feed into next year. And today is a past that we must not forget even going into next year. And as the opposition, politics. We don't play politics the way government will play politics. We can't play the politics of abduction and silencing of the media and the politics of curating narratives on social media platforms. We cannot do that. We play the role of telling Kenyans this is where we are. That is a role that the parliament should be playing on those who are in the opposition politics, but we don't have that at the moment. So we have to play both roles. And painting a future for Kenya is like 20% of it, because we are not able to even paint that picture of where we are today, because where we are today is on a minus. So we have to keep telling ourselves we need to go back to zero. So when you talk about Jubilee Party and we have a presidential candidate, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, has to keep saying, I will restore. I will restore the education systems. Why? It's supposed to be, I will, increase from where we are to, but we are on a negative. So every presidential candidate keeps talking about, I will restore freedom of expression. I will ensure. These are not things that we're supposed to be talking about in 2025. I strongly think that for us, we need to dream after we get to point zero, then we can say now, one, where do we start? Because as I said earlier, that every day that passes and this regime is in power, I lose 1,000 opportunities in the future. And that is how I see it. So for there to be another new regime, if they are taking me further away from my 1,000 opportunities, then it's not making sense.
Can you do both? Can you dream and plan?
Yes, of course.
But that doesn't seem to be coming out strongly. I hear you about we're coming to zero. And you've made a good point. It's like first we have to renew hope and then dream.
Yes, and then dream.
But then, as to her point, it's like there's a head start.
Yeah,
so
because of what the government is doing is the regime is telling us that we are going to Arusha, but it is speedily heading to Addis Ababa from the north towards the north, and you're wondering, so we need someone who will make us get a U-turn and get us down going to Arusha. So this is what the regime is doing, and that's why we have to keep on reminding Kenyans, because Kenyans might seem to forget, and tell Kenyans that what the narratives that are being peddled on media, some are government sponsored. Some people, when they speak here, they have double speak. Be able to see that, even in the world of religion, you're told to decipher the good spirits and the bad spirits, and they might both come in one form.
Counter then as Jubilee, because propaganda, is the oldest political tool known to man. There's not a government that has not used propaganda in one form or the other. It could be positive propaganda, it could be negative. What's your counter? Because true narratives take shape because someone is pushing them again. So what's your counter? And this always goes back to what's your offering as an opposition in every matter. Big like manifesto, fine. We've said let's get to zero, then we dream. Okay. But even now that there is clearly propaganda and there is communication, what would I call it? Olympics, where are you in the communication Olympics?
Yeah, can I give you a chance to answer as you wind up? I just want to quickly tease what's coming up because that's a good question and just for you to answer. Your world will be talking about recovering from financial trauma because it's still January. That's with Winnie and Wikali. That's going to be coming up on NTV and on Vibe Shift. Robert Manyala, CEO of Robbie Search Africa Limited, Converting Skills into Money, will be hosted by Claudia Naisabwa and Brian Maseli on Nation FM. All that is coming up in just a few moments. But yes, Angel, to answer Mariam's question.
Yes, Mariam. When I look at Jubilee Party, I see a party that has a mindset of 2025, 2026, going into 2027. And I think that's the party where young people need to join. And we have our candidate, our presidential candidate is Dr. Fred Matiang'i. And in all the things that we say and do, we know that that is the man who can fix our institutions. Our country, our nation that is dwindling into more debt and more poverty. I think that is a man who offers a lot of solutions to most of the things that we talk about. And I believe that he understands the plights of the youth better than anyone, because our issues are not very many. We just want to get educated, get a job, drive a nice car, be able to keep up with your basics. We're not looking at, we don't have a strong desire to put cash in warehouses like we are seeing today. It's basics. Just allow the country to run. And that's what Jubilee is fighting for. Jubilee is fighting for a better country. It's fighting for a nation where young Kenyans have, or even all Kenyans, have the luxury of choice. You don't have to be where you are. You don't have to have a master's or an engineering course and you are waiting at a cafeteria. It's not supposed to be the case. We need to channel our strengths into the rightful places. And I see that leadership with our flag bearer, Dr. Fred Matiang'i. I think that now time is running out and we need to make a decision. I hope Kenyans look at it that way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angel Mbuthia,
Thank you.
For coming and just sharing that. She's the National Youth Chairperson, Jubilee Party. Thank you to all our guests. Thank you for joining me, Janet Pogwa, Eric Latif, Mariam Bisha. Fixing the Nation, one conversation at a time. You'll find all these conversations online, but we'll see you here live tomorrow from 6 a.m.